Welcome to the Mark Fixes Stuff Retro Cabin Build Part 3. And with Seth emerging confidently from the cabin, that means it's time for him to tell us that he's done something super clever. Mark Fixes Stuff. Whether you're a tinkerer in a shed or building the next big thing, PCBWay make it easy to get your boards made just right. So why don't you go over and give them a try at PCBWay.com. Fantastic quality, great service. Thanks PCBWay for sponsoring this video. You made some steps whilst I was inside. How long did these take you?
Hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
And they're concreted in as well.
Oh right. You calling me fat?
No. Just it keeps it off the floor, doesn't it?
What, my gut? But Seth didn't stop at steps. He cracked straight on with installing the silver Recticel insulation layer. This is the base for our cable floor, which is a floating floor design. Now, in theory, this all looks very easy. However, it's not. And experience with working with these materials really does make a difference. I don't know how he does it. When I measure one thing, I've forgotten the measurement before I even get across the room, but he seems to remember multiple measurements in one go. Pretty impressive stuff. And things where I'd think it was good enough, he goes back and trims to the nth degree. I'm so lucky to have him working on this project. Good tradesmen are hard to find. Seth's competent at handling loads of tools, and we can see that that tape measure has had a lot of action. Recticel has a thermal insulation property of triple the material that we used to insulate the walls. If I'd had the budget, I would have used Recticel for the entire cabin build, but hey ho. I'm pleased with the progress, and so's Seth. At this point, Zach came, so we had to spend some time clearing the floor. Zach helps out at the channel. He's slowly learning the ways of retro, and also some other skills, like playing the air clarinet? Who knows? I've had to mute this section of singing because it's copyrighted music, and it's awful. Anyway, with the floor cleared, Seth starts sweeping up, and he starts to make some real progress. Once again, he throws me out of the cabin because he says I'm in the way. In addition to the steps, Seth also built the skirt around the bottom of the cabin. If you remember, the cabin's on stilts, so that should really help with the thermals inside, and he's done a great job of it. Something's been nibbling at the mushrooms in the garden. I hope it was wildlife this time and not Zach again. It took us ages to get him cleaned up last time. I'm so excited for the cabin to be finished. When it's ready, it's going to be a real hive of activity. I have so many projects which have been put on the back burner because of, well, fires, moves, you name it. And I'll be close to Ronnie, which is always nice. Time passes, and then Seth invites us back in to see that he's finished almost the entire floor. He's actually left a funnel plate for us to film. I think he's getting the hang of this YouTubing lark. All around the edge of the cabin, the fit is really accurate. Priming his pump, he extrudes some sticky white stuff on the final board. There's a lot to lay, but luckily it looks like he can go on forever. Seth then forces the wood into the hole, making sure that he doesn't leave any empty cracks. The final board takes a bit of persuasion, but eventually it goes into place perfectly. Except for one thing. The corner of this board is broken, and nobody seems to know why. Well, we do. I dropped it, but apparently a bit of filler will sort that out. With the floor down and no budget for laminate, I'm afraid we're going to have to use something called floor paint. I opted for grey, a neutral grey, because it won't reflect any colours back into anything that I'm filming. This is actually quite important when you're filming things because, say we had an orange floor, everything we filmed would have an orange tinge. Painting the floor took a couple of coats and another day. The next day we were expecting the electrician.
So it's 5:30 in the morning and up early because the electrician is coming today and it's going to be a long, expensive day of it. So with all of the routing of the power cable out of the house, across the pathways or under the pathways, through the swamp, down the garden to the hut, it's about 100 metres of armoured 100 amp cable. Oh, I'm really sweating it, to be honest. This is early for me. I'm a night owl, not a morning person. There's a new consumer unit to go in the house that needs to support it. It's got to come out through the wall, so lots of big drilling. At the other end, it's got to go, I think, round the back now of the hut rather than underneath. In there, another consumer unit, and then there's 3 circuits: lighting, sockets and heating. Then all of the sockets have got to go on, the lighting's got to go on the ceiling, switches. So yeah, there you have it. I need a cup of tea, so I'll see you on in a bit. Bye. Not my favourite type of day, morning.
As the sun rose over our beautiful Hampshire location, I was ready for a day of, well, I don't know what, because I don't know how to do electrical installations. Luckily, Seth and Terry know each other well. And that means they were able to work together in the most efficient way to get the cabling safely out of the house, across the swamp, and behind the cabin so it can enter into a distribution box down there for our needs. While Seth was chopping through compacted floor materials, Terry was down in the cabin wiring up all the sockets. I think he could do this with his eyes closed at this point. And he can certainly do it whilst engaging in friendly chat. I'm really glad that I chose Terry for this job. He's a really nice guy and doesn't mind me hanging around and filming. At this point, Seth decided Terry deserved a coffee. And I think he was right. And with Seth falling into a support role today, he took some time to work on some of his YouTube faces. And comedy moves. Oh, you can tell he's a student of film. Terry was already on the last socket, so Seth panicked and decided to write his name and leave his mark on the Mark Fixes stuffed door. Well done, Seth. Now all this wiring is great, but seeing as Seth told me earlier that my idea of nailing an extension cord to the ceiling was probably illegal, we need something called a consumer unit. A consumer unit allows all these wires, which are basically spurred off the big thick cable that we've put into the back of the cabin, into different rings. One of these rings is for the lighting. Now, these lights are LED batons, so they don't draw a huge amount of power, but they are very bright. Well, at least they are on paper. There's also a ring for the sockets, and this separate ring for our heaters, because it will get cold down in the cabin. Once that big thick cable is through the wall, Terry needs to make sure it goes into the back of the consumer unit and then attaches the appropriate rings. He is the ring master, the Lord of the Rings. Those jokes are too easy, sorry. Because we're in the woods, the wind has blown in some dust, leaves, and a suspicious package from the local Greggs via the little bakery. These contractors are absolutely the best, and it's been such a joy to work with them. But even they have a weakness. That's right. sausage rolls. With our cholesterol tanks topped off, Seth grabs hold of his massive tool to make a big hole for the cable. The hole is drilled at a downwards angle so that any water that gets into it runs downwards towards the lower elevation.
I was aiming for the mortar joint, but I was ever so slightly high.
Happens.
Yeah.
I'm not joking here, he was actually a bit upset about that, so he's going to fill that in later. Luckily we have our resident black cat Merlin on hand to cancel out any bad luck. I think he's wondering why so many humans are in his hunting ground. I don't know, Merlin, blame Seth. To make sure the line up the wall is straight, they've only gone and used a frickin' laser. And using this laser, they're going to put in some raw plugs to which they're going to attach something called cleats. It's always heartwarming to see a tradesperson using their tools for double their intended purpose. The cleats are going on nicely, but they still have the issue of how they're going to get this whopping great big black cable through the wall and into the house. Seth's been thinking about this and reckons he can make a route through the overhang of the roof. And it looks like Terry agrees in principle, but wants to have a quick look in the utility area loft hatch. And here's the face of a man looking confident. He tells us that he wants us to push the cable in because he can see daylight all along the edge of the roof, meaning there must be a route for it. After his reconnaissance mission, Terry comes back outside to confirm the route for the cable, and I confirm my 5-star rating of getting in the way. Because I only work on small stuff, I can't help but think it must take a massive amount of confidence to start drilling massive holes through your own house, let alone other people's houses like this. And it's all going so well until we discover that the loft is infested with carpenter twonks. Now our armoured cable is through the wall and then through the ceiling into the existing house consumer unit, it's time for Terry to hook it up to the sparkly power stuff. This takes a little while because apparently it was wired up initially by a crazy lunatic. Sherlock Holmes level detective work aside, he soon finishes the task and it's time for a switch on. I can't believe it, we've got power in the cabin. Amazing. The project is one step closer to completion and I'm one step closer to having to pay that final bill. But there's still a ways to go. If you'd like to help me fund the cabin project, I'd be really grateful. The link's below. Before Terry goes, he checks and signs off all the work. Terry's based in Ashford, Kent, but covers a wide area, so if you need him, I've popped his details below. Bye Terry, and thanks for all your hard work. Well, I'm incredibly happy to say that we've got our cabin. We've got walls, a floor, lights and electricity. The next video will be moving in. Thanks so much for all your support, and thanks to my amazing patrons appearing on the screen right now. Patrons drive everything that I do. If you'd like to become a patron and get ad-free early access to my videos, come to patreon.com/MarkFixesStuff. Patrons also get access to the patron-only vlog, which you might want to or not want to watch. I don't know, that's up to you. Patrons also get the ability to see through solid objects with their X-ray vision. That might be a lie. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time in the next exciting episode of Mark Fixes Stuff.